I try to eat organic as much as I can. If someone has unknowingly consumed some products that are GMO laced or you treated, do you have any recommendations for how one might be able to detox? Is that even possible to help get whatever that is and whatever it causes out of your system?
Yes, I do. That's a great question. In fact, it was the second most popular question I had in years and years of traveling. And I'd always answer it mostly the same way, saying, it's above my pay grade. I'm not a scientist or a healthcare practitioner. But then I started hearing from practitioners and product formulators and scientists that they had developed ways to detox, repair, and rebuild the body after being exposed to GMOs and Roundup. So I gathered them up and created a little course called Healing from GMOs and Roundup, because although I'm not qualified to answer the questions, I'm more than qualified to ask them. So I asked 18 people, all these great practitioners. You'll see, if you go to livehealthybewell.com, you can see the course is available there, livehealthybewell.com. And I remember talking to Dietrich Klinghardt on the interview, and he told me something that I hadn't heard before. He would test the glyphosate in the urine of his patients. And the ones that were the most sick, particularly including autistic kids, had no glyphosate in their urine. He'd start his glyphosate detox, and then the glyphosate would start to be released from their bodies, suggesting that they may have more glyphosate accumulating in their bodies than those that are less sick. I've heard that same answer from another practitioner more recently. I've heard there's so many ways that these experts, Dietrich Klinghardt, Lee Cowden, Kiran Krishnan, Zach Bush, Joe Mercola, Josh Axe, so many ways that these experts have, with their angles and their tools, addressed your question. It's not appropriate for me to try to summarize and pick what the best is, because I can't. It's best if you watch it and decide what works for you. Listen to their logic, and you can also do follow-up research on your own by searching the net. But there's plenty of information in there, whether it's detoxing through saunas and detoxing through building up the two-phase detoxification of the liver through particular foods, or there's a way of creating fermented foods that's there, described by a person who is a nutritionist, a chef, and an inventor. So we got a really great group together to help you answer that question.
Thanks, Jeffrey. Up next, we're going to bring in Kaylee.
Hi. Hi. Thank you. Jeff, please, where's the EU at? Do they act as one, or do they act as separate countries? And where are they at in terms of their permissiveness for all of these things?
Well, the EU Commission is pro-GMO. The European Food Safety Authority, which is like their FDA, is pro-GMO. The Parliament, the members of the European Parliament, vote against GMOs. So when there's proposals for allowing new crops to be planted in Europe or new foods to be approved, the Parliament will vote no, the European Commission will vote yes. But the countries can block their own growing of GMOs, and very, very few European countries grow GMOs. Spain has a little acreage, if they still do, of genetically engineered corn. Romania may have some corn or soy, but there's very few countries that grow it. There are no countries that ban the consumption of it. But the food companies, back in 1999 and 2000, committed to not use GM ingredients. Not in terms of animal feed. There's only a small number that commit to not use GMO animal feed in their animal products. But in their non-animal products, most of the big retailers that have a lot of power there, as well as the major brands, committed to the Europeans not to give them GMOs. And they have a labeling law, which is far which is a real labeling law, not the fake labeling law in the United States. And you will very rarely find a product that says genetically engineered there because it's rare that it's used. The European Union law, the judges there, the courts, determined that gene editing should be treated like GMOs. And that really angered the biotech industry. So they got their friends at a German institute and at the European Food Safety Authority to publish things to try and convince the laws to change so that they allow all gene-edited GMOs to go without any regulation, without any oversight, without any labeling. So the pressure is on. It's a full court press right now, and we're trying to produce assets that can be used in that fight to hold the line in the EU and come back to regulation in other countries where we've already lost.
Thanks, Jeffrey. Appreciate that. And excuse me, up next we have Sean. Welcome, Sean.
Hi, please hold on one second. Hey, can you hear me?
Yes.
All right. How are you doing, Jeffrey? Thank you for everything that you do. I'd like to know your opinion on the gene therapy injections that are being marketed as vaccines right now.
Thank you, Sean. I get asked that a lot, and I'm not an expert at vaccines. I am very well acquainted with genetically engineered foods, and for years, people have asked me questions that are outside my expertise, and I decided to create a policy early on to stay in my lane for a number of reasons. From a strategic standpoint, I want to keep the bar as low as possible for people to stop eating GMOs. So I give no advice in terms of what to eat other than organic. So someone may tell you plant-based, someone may tell you paleo, someone may tell you Weston Price, someone may tell you raw, etc., macrobiotic. They'll all disagree with each other, but they'll all agree with me. And they can all say, I've seen this at panels in conferences where everyone's fighting with each other, but the audience and everyone on the panel agrees, don't eat GMOs. So we don't take positions on diet. We don't take positions on other areas, like people get asked me about everything else. So there are far greater experts and great controversy in the area of the vaccines. And the thing that I can say is that I haven't heard about these vaccines being tested for it, but the other vaccines that are been tested from the schedule for children, they contain glyphosate. And that we consider to be reprehensible. And we have an idea of how that glyphosate got in there, but it's absolutely a disaster.
Thanks, Jeffrey. I'm now going to move to Andrea. Welcome, Andrea.
Good afternoon. Thanks so much, Jeffrey. You're awesome. Could I go back and ask you, why do they release mosquitoes in certain countries? And do they release the mosquitoes in the United States? And what's the purpose?
It's been Cayman Islands, Panama, Malaysia, Brazil, and Florida in the Keys. The idea is they're targeting the Aedes aegypti mosquito, which carries dengue fever, Zika, and another disease called chikungunya. And they want to reduce the population of this mosquito in order to theoretically reduce the disease. Where they have released it, there's been no indication that the disease incidence has been reduced. And in some cases, even the population of the mosquitoes has not been permanently reduced. The interesting thing is they have targeted California to release billions of mosquitoes in 12 counties. But my friend, pediatrician Michelle Perro, who's on the panel at Real Truth About Health and the author of What's Making Our Children Sick, she checked with the statistics in California, and found 700 cases of these diseases that were mosquito-borne by Aedes aegypti. But they were all from people that caught it outside of California and then came into the state. There wasn't a single mosquito-borne disease from this type of mosquito recorded in the history of California health stats. So there's no reason for it in California. And what it does is it changes the gene pool and exposes people to potential mosquito bites. Now, they say they release only the males, and they claim that the females are killed in larva stage, and it's the females that bite. But in the release, the last time they released, there were plenty of females released accidentally, and it's a leaky technology. It doesn't always work. So the 100% success rate in terms of kill, not true. It could end up creating, and probably does, a vast amount of mosquitoes that bite, that are genetically engineered, that haven't been properly tested to see what the results are for human health. Also, bats and birds, some of them eat mosquitoes. There's no tests to see what the impact will be down the food chain. And it's a very dangerous technology to release it in insects that bite and fly. I'm just saying that.